Top 10 things you should know while learning astrology. Hey there, beautiful humans. Maybe you've recently become astro curious, and maybe you've been astro curious for a while and you're saying to yourself, I'm so interested, but this sometimes seems like a lot. Sometimes it sounds like a foreign language, and I don't even know where to start or where to put the pieces together. I'm here to help with that. I'm Suzzy. I'm a trauma-informed professional practicing astrologer and metaphysical practitioner. And before this was my full-time job, I had a whole other career that was super competitive. And what I learned is that the people who are meant to be in your community and meant to be your clients will find you. So moving forward, all of the advice in this video is truly not to sell you on staying on this channel. It's to help you make decisions that are best for you while you're exploring astrology, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, and maybe you already have quite a bit of knowledge under your belt. Number one, the absolute number one undisputed piece of advice I would give to anyone, even if this is the only thing you hear me say, and then you're like, I don't like her, and you sign off. Please hear me when I say, do not seek astrology to find out what is wrong with you. And if somebody is selling you astrology based on so you can find out what's wrong with you, that is a big red flag. You should be learning astrology to feed your brain, to grow yourself, to understand yourself, to feel seen, to feel known, which is one of the deepest, most supportive things in the human experience is to feel known, not to go finding what is broken about you. We can have challenges. Sometimes we can feel stuck, misunderstood, hurt. Astrology should be giving us the roadmap and the tools and about where our superpowers are and the strengths within our chart to deal with the challenges. If you want to learn astrology, please foray into that venture with kindness toward yourself. Number two, understand that there are different types of astrology, different house systems, different belief systems behind each practice. Especially in today's polarized world, we usually have a decent sense of our own belief systems. Make sure you're using that to identify the type of astrology you truly want to learn, and then who you're going to learn from. There are excellent astrologers that we might call Hellenistic or ancient astrology, which uses a whole house system. And there are excellent astrologers in evolutionary or progressive evolutionary astrology, which often uses Placidus house system. At some point, you may get to the place where you can take in a little bit of both, but in the beginning, it could be a little confusing to try to blend them. Different house systems, sometimes different rulerships, definitely different philosophies around how we express astrology today and how we feel about the journey, the evolution, the human experience, and our place in it. Progressive evolutionary astrology believes we can move through our placements in this lifetime in the concept of natural human evolution. The one constant in life is change, which means we're truly meant to grow and use these placements as a roadmap for this growth, not to limit us to any one kind of life. This often uses Placidus house system, which is based on later math that wasn't available when the whole house system was first created. You'll hear some astrologers say they get more accurate readings from one house system or another, but what I want you to focus on is the philosophy. If you believe in a fated life, that your placements tell the entire story, and that you have less free will, you might be inclined towards that Hellenistic ancient astrology and the older techniques. It's the philosophy I want you to resonate with. If you're someone who's super interested in your own evolution and healing and how you can use your astrological chart and transits to meet them with your free will, you may be more inclined towards evolutionary progressive astrology and the Placidus system, which uses the exact math of the exact minute and second when you were born to create your unique chart. Now, am I a little biased? Sure, I am. I practice progressive evolutionary astrology, and if you choose to stay on this channel, that is the kind of astrology you'll learn. Notable astrologers who practice this kind of astrology: Stephen Forrest, Jeffrey Wolf-Green, Joanne Wickenberg, and Lori Rivers, my personal favorite. Number three, Once you narrow down the kind of astrology you want to learn, just so that you can stick with consistency rather than confusion and start building that foundation, it is my humble opinion as a trauma informed astrologer to listen to the languaging. It doesn't matter if it's me or someone else, or even whether you choose traditional or progressive evolutionary astrology. I want you to listen to the languaging of that astrologer because sometimes it's important to know what we don't want more than what we want. And sometimes it's important to know what to avoid as well. You want to avoid astrologers who sign shame or placement shame, who work out of rage bait, fear mongering to get you to listen. Those are only online viewer tactics. Astrology should be used in honesty. It should be used to empower, create awareness, to bring healing and guidance, to make you feel known, and absolutely to look into the future when to buy a house, when to apply for that job. What it's not meant to do is make you feel bad so somebody can get more likes or views or go viral. Listen, we can all experience a bad experience with one sign or another. Everyone's allowed to have a no-fly zone. If you've had several bad relationships with one sign, pop off. Don't date that sign anymore. That is personal choice. I mean, it's really not that simple. It's not just about the sun sign, but everyone's allowed to say, hey, that's a no fly zone for me. I don't date that sign anymore. Great, great, good for you. If you like it, I love it for you. However, if you're listening to a professional astrologer or someone claiming to be a professional astrologer who takes their personal experience with people in their lives and then generalize that one sign is awful, that is not real astrology. That is somebody working out their stuff through astrology as the vehicle. That is bias, and it's very hard to learn in a biased space. While it might be tempting to bond with that astrologer who also agrees with you that that one sign is the worst, there's no really one sign that's awful. Just like you can find awful people in every profession, and I know everyone relates to that. You can find awful people in every sign. You can also find amazing people in that same sign. This is a big red flag because eventually that astrologer that you bonded with over that one sign being awful or liar or whatever it is will eventually get to your sign and say something that makes you feel bad about yourself. That is toxic behavior. That is not real astrology. And I said what I said. Number 4, if you instantly feel any vibe or resistance to astrologer, even if you think, well, their astrology is good or other people like them, it's unlikely you're going to be able to enjoy being in that space. It's hard to learn if you don't enjoy being in the space. Learning when you're having fun and you're having a vibe is much easier. We don't need to qualify or not qualify it. Not everyone's going to be a vibe. Not everyone's going to vibe with me. Not everyone's going to vibe with you in your lifetime. And that's okay. We don't have to quantify it. And there doesn't have to be a bad guy. I talk about that all the time on my channel. It just doesn't have to be a bad guy. If you're not vibing with me, don't stay on the channel. If you feel like this is interesting, but there's something about her I don't like, I promise there's good information in more spaces than just mine. If you feel resistance, honor that. As a trauma informed practitioner, with everything I do and working in the personal development space as well, honor that. Don't stay uncomfortable for anyone, and certainly not a stranger on the internet, whether they have good professional quality advice or not. Honor the fact that you don't feel comfortable and don't try to learn in that space. That's probably another video, but that does more harm than it does good on a whole lot of levels. If you feel resistance to someone else, same rules apply. If you turn on someone, you're like, I don't know what this is, honor that. There are a lot of good astrologers. There are a lot of toxic ones, but there are a lot of good ones. And you'll know when you feel right and you follow those languaging rules and you don't see the sign shaming and you don't see things that fear monger. Anything that is meant to worry you is not a healthy space to learn in. Astrology is supposed to deconstruct that and not encourage it. So with all due respect, because everybody's where they're at in their journey, I would take caution with somebody who associates, perceives, and then translates to non astrologers planets in a fearful way or in a worried way. You want to be in a relaxed space when you're learning because that's what allows you to ask questions and feel safe and not judged. Number 5, learn from somebody operating in an ethical way. Not just no shaming or no fear mongering or no rage baiting, but also no slandering other astrologers and not working out of ego. I would not ever name or think badly about an astrologer as a person that still maybe has some fear to deconstruct around planets. When you hear or you see an entire platform, and I think if you're on social media and the entire platform is less about the astrology and how it helps the viewer and more about slandering other astrologers, that is someone working out of ego. And when you listen to how someone is speaking, you can hear someone working out of ego. That doesn't mean we're not allowed to think highly of ourselves or have confidence, be proud of our accomplishments. It certainly also doesn't mean that creators, astrologers, and practitioners aren't allowed to have boundaries or that they have to take abuse from any community or any one person in the community. Slandering doesn't look like, hey, don't listen to rage baiting astrologers that might make you feel bad about yourself. If you're on social media at all, we have all seen certain astrologers or people who pretend to be astrologers on certain apps that have built half and sometimes almost their entire platform on just slandering and mentioning other astrologers who have really done the work. You're most likely not going to learn the foundational pieces that you need from somebody who is constantly mentioning other astrologers' names because you don't like them, because they have a bigger platform than you. If you know, you know. When you see that, run. That's a huge red flag. The same way that I will always say that when you see a video saying, like, claim this reading, you don't have to claim. If something is yours, it's meant for you. Your guides have your back. On a more subtle level, ego is when the work, the gift of the knowledge, you have to have certain gifts to really be able to do the astrology well. It's a lot of math, it's a lot of synthesizing. You have to be good at patterns to get to a certain point in astrology. When the work, when the gifts of that knowledge and the energy exchange between, and sometimes it's not that overt, right? Sometimes it's not that guy on the social apps just naming every astrologer to get the views on their own channel. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes even the creator may not realize that that's what they're doing. Ego is when the work and the natural talents, the gifts to be able to do this and do it well, the knowledge and the energy exchange between that practitioner and their community becomes more about that person and their level of right and wrong than it does about the incredible tool that we have to help each other. That in itself is a gift. Being put on this earth and being able to help others is humbling, holding back emotion. It's a real gift. If you get to help others and you get to be impactful in their lives, and this is not a thankless job, people will tell you, they will update you. Like, who's luckier than us? Professional practicing astrologers or people who have huge communities that they're really helping and they're doing the work. No one's luckier than us. That energy exchange can't be sullied when the ego becomes more important than that work. Again, doesn't mean that any astrologer or creator of any kind has to take abuse from community or isn't allowed to have boundaries. Number 6, be open. Almost every human has experienced some kind of trauma, bigger or small. We don't qualify or quantify trauma here. But once you start learning, once you become astro curious. And you'll find things out like, oh, that person has this kind of moon. No wonder. Be open to hearing good things about the signs that you have had bad experience with, even traumatic or more abusive ones. One of my signs, I love all the signs, but in my personal life, I've had, there's been one sign that I've truly had the most beautiful experience and continued experiences with. That same sign is the sun sign of the person responsible for my childhood trauma, a big portion of it. Learning how to separate and learning how to hear the good things about the signs, placements that you've had really bad experiences. And that doesn't diminish what you went through. It's not to say that you're not valid in having that experience with that person. Try to be open to hearing all the good things because they're not all the same. Each chart is like a little snowflake. They really are that individual. And I get the question all the time, twins. Yeah. That rising sign, a couple of minutes, those degrees, how things are talking to each other, if it changes the house systems, yeah, 10 minutes makes the difference. Be open to hearing the other side of your best friends or the love of your life's placement too. If you're coming here to truly learn, you have to be open to all the expressions of all the signs and all the planets. Real astrology is layers and layers and not a hot take. If you come in with preconceived notions, especially from any kind of quick pop astrology, I never met a blank that wasn't like this, those things. If you come in with those hot takes and they are backed up by your bad experience with someone, it will limit your ability to take it all in and learn. And if you ever want to practice, that is, I can't even tell you how important that is. Number 7, the layers. There are many, many, many layers. If you're not open to the idea that this is a subject you could literally study for years and still uncover new layers, new types of astrology, you will get frustrated. Do you know how many combinations there are between the signs and the planets and the houses? And that's before adding the house cusps or rulerships or dispositors and aspects. If astrology is something you want as a career, the most important part is synthesizing, and that is so nuanced. Biggest compliment I've ever got was Lori Rivers saying that I synthesized her chart in a way that made her feel known. The synthesizing is the key. Unless you're open, it's going to be difficult to synthesize, delineate, let alone accurately predict. But even if you want to learn for funsies, even if you just want to stay astro curious and not become an astrologer, just remember putting all the pieces together will take time and you should give yourself that grace. Number 8, listen for your rising sign. If you're listening to an astrologer give you a monthly horoscope, give you a weekly horoscope, or how a new moon or a full moon or eclipse or some big transit is going to affect you, listen to your rising sign, not your sun sign, not your moon sign. If you're listening to tarot, listen to whichever sign you like, whatever sign you vibe with, whatever placement you vibe with. But for astrological breakdowns of how a transit will affect you personally, you'll need to know the subjects that will be highlighted. And we only know the subjects that will be highlighted by where those planets fall in your chart. We determine that by your rising sign. You will see a mix online of some astrologers that just concentrate on interpretation. Some will give you technical aspects, some will do a mix. I tend to do a mix, but being aware of the exact degree of your sign is so important. When you're listening to these kinds of videos, and if you don't know the exact degree of your rising sign, but you have your birth info, go to my website in the description box, hit the content and the contact and say, Suzzy, here's my birth info. Can I get my exact rising sign? And within 72 hours, somebody will email you with your rising sign degree. Won't be a whole chart. It won't be a personal reading, but I will email you with the exact rising degree. If you don't have your birth time at all, I do rectification or find somebody you vibe with that does rectification. And that means we know enough astrology to take all the pieces together, ask you questions about your life, and find your rising degree so that you can look into your year ahead. You can get a solar return. You can know your lunar returns every month, your solar return once a year. You know when your Venus return is coming, let alone all the transits, the new moons, the full moons. It's very helpful. Know before you go, I always say. It absolutely makes a difference. Knowing when to rest, knowing when to dig in, knowing when to take the help, knowing when to lean into independence, that all comes from seeing what's going to happen in your chart a little ahead of time. And knowing your rising sign is imperative to all of that. And the other reason that the exact degree matters, and also why I don't do whole sign, is let's say you're a Libra rising. You're going to listen to Libra rising, but you're a Libra rising at 25 degrees. And you've just listened to a video about the Scorpio full moon. Let's take the one that just happened. That full moon was at 11 degrees and 21 minutes. If you're a Libra rising is at 11 degrees and 23 minutes or more, you should actually be listening to Scorpio rising, because that's most likely the house that that full moon fell in, which decides the subject matters of how that full moon affects you personally. There's a big difference between having a full moon in your 12th house versus your first. The subject matter of those houses lends to how it may play out for you. Knowing your rising degree, even when you're least listening to weekly transits. I did weekly transits 2 weeks ago, and almost all the transits were under 20 degrees, which means anybody who had a rising degree over 20 degrees should be listening to the next sign over, because that's where those planets are happening in your chart. I'm going to do a whole video about rising signs and houses to explain this more. And also, I have a learning series on my Patreon. But for now, know your rising degree and listen to astrologers who tell you where the degrees of the planets are in their videos. And whether it's a new moon or full moon or a Uranus Venus conjunction or the Uranus Mars conjunction that's coming up, whatever it is, if you're just listening because you know you're a Libra rising and you don't know your degree, you could be listening to the completely wrong predictions for you. Number 9, don't expect to go from 0 to hero. You've learned every last thing about every possible placement. That is like learning the ingredients in a recipe. The condition of the ingredients, the way that those ingredients were kept, the way that you're cooking those ingredients, those are the layers and layers and layers. So many times during an online community live stream or in a comment, or tons of times in a client session, people will ask me, how did you see that? And I honestly can't give it to you. I'm not even gatekeeping, because there's no easy answer. It is literally learning how those layers influence and permeate and shape. And every layer is different. Everybody's chart, again, is like a snowflake. So, again, don't be hard on yourself if you're not learning things overnight, or if you think that this moon with this sun combination, it makes one type of person, and then you hear a professional astrologer that you admire give a completely different take. There's 12 other things that's happening that's influencing their take, that will take time before you can start to layer those things. Just be really gentle with yourself. Number 10, number 10, last one. If you want to go professional, take real classes. If astrology is something you're interested in as an eventual career or something you want to do on the side, if you cannot get enough of it, if you love it, please first practice with your friends and family, get good at their charts and your own first. And for the love of Hercules, please take serious astrology classes. I can teach you a lot. I love teaching. Got that Mercury in my 9th house. You may not know what that means, but I know what that means. I love sharing. Sharing's caring. I have a whole learning series. Those don't constitute as professional astrology classes to put you in a position to practice. And to ethically take money from somebody to give guidance accurately, people sometimes make big decisions. or they want the confirmation for the decisions they already want to make or they're worried about making. Taking professional classes and understanding the ethics of the practice, because when you take professional classes, most people are disappointed that we're not talking about what this sign and the sign mean together in the first instant. You have to learn all of the foundation. You have to learn the real history of it so you know what it was based on. You have to learn all the associations with all the signs and the planets and the houses. And you have to learn the ethics of practicing. Because to be honest, sometimes we can see things in a chart. We might be able to see things in somebody else's chart, and guessing or triggering somebody and then saying, okay, this was fun, and walking away and leaving them with that is not safe. It will take a while. You can do it. Take the classes and just do no harm while you're learning. Unofficially, number 11, have fucking fun. We have so much fun in this community. I'm a Gen X with Pluto on my ascendant. That means I might like a little dark humor, something a little appropriate, brown chicken, brown cow, whatever. I don't take myself overly seriously. We have fun, and you should find the right community that feels supportive for you, that feels like your people, that feels supportive, but also is fun. If it feels like pressure, bounce. Not the right community for you. It should be fucking fun while you're learning. I hope this helped. If you're coming along, we would love to have you in our Astro Curious Baddie space here, or really on Patreon, where you can engage with me and find me. And there's an amazing community. I love you. Now you love you. Bye, everyone.